I remember gripping my graduation cap with sweaty palms, eyes scanning the crowd for two familiar faces that never appeared. All around me, parents cheered, balloons bobbed in the wind, cameras flashed a symphony of pride and celebration, but my row stayed quiet. I sat among it all, invisible in a sea of joy. As my name was called and I crossed the stage with honors, I smiled for the photographer, knowing no one was clapping for me. After the ceremony, I stood by the flagpole where we'd agreed to meet. I waited. 15 minutes passed, then 30. I checked my phone, no messages, nothing. Finally, I called. My mom answered, cheerful as ever. "Oh sweetheart, we meant to come, but your sister had a big horse show. It's regionals, you understand right?" I didn't, not then. All I knew was that my parents had promised they'd be there. That for once, I'd be the one they showed up for. Instead, I stood there in my cap and gown, watching families pose for pictures I'd never have. Swallowing the first bitter pill of a truth I wouldn't fully accept for years. I would always come second. They say favoritism is subtle, but in our house, it was as loud as applause, just never for me. From the moment we were old enough to speak, my sister Danielle was the son my parents revolved around. Every story at dinner somehow led back to her. Every photo on the fridge featured her latest ribbon, her horse, her polished smile. I existed. In the margins, a name they remembered when chores needed doing or errands needed running. Danielle had violin lessons, horseback riding, private art tutors. I had homework, dishes, and silence. My birthday parties were quiet affairs, store-bought cake, maybe a last-minute card. Hers were full-blown events with catered food, themed decorations, and ponies in the backyard. And if I ever dared to speak up, I was labeled dramatic, jealous, ungrateful. The word independent became the mask they handed me, an excuse not to nurture me. I played soccer for 3 years. They never came to a single game. Danielle fell off a horse once, barely scraped her knee, and the world stopped spinning. I remember sitting on the floor outside the waiting room while my parents fussed over her inside. No one asked if I was hungry. No one asked if I was okay. That's when I learned my place, the dependable child, the one who didn't need too much, didn't cry too loudly, didn't compete with Danielle's spotlight. I didn't want to be the favorite. I just wanted to matter. The summer Danielle turned 16, my parents bought her a horse. Not just any horse, a purebred Dutch warmblood with a custom leather saddle, private stable, and weekly sessions, with a show-jumping coach. They called it an investment in her future. That same month, my glasses broke. I taped them together for 3 weeks before anyone noticed. When I finally asked for help buying new ones, my mom sighed and said, "Money's tight right now." I didn't even argue. What was the point? While Danielle prepped for her next competition, I was cobbling together second-hand textbooks and applying for part-time jobs to afford college application fees. She got ribbons and riding boots. I got used to doing without. One night, I overheard them discussing how proud they were of her discipline, her grace. Meanwhile, I was in my room, writing essays by flashlight because the overhead bulb had gone out 2 weeks earlier. I stopped asking for things after that. Not because I didn't need help, but because every no felt like a confirmation. I wasn't worth the effort. That horse wasn't just a pet. It was a neon sign in our front yard that screamed, "She deserves more. You don't." It was a Tuesday when my body finally gave out. After weeks of working 2 jobs, skipping meals, and running on caffeine and fumes, I collapsed behind the register at the campus bookstore. I remember the cold tile floor against my cheek. The panic in my coworker's voice as she called 911. In the ER, tubes and wires tethered me to machines, and for the first time in my life, I couldn't hide how exhausted I truly was. The doctors said it was dehydration, exhaustion, dangerously low blood sugar. "Who's your emergency contact?" they asked. I gave them my parents' number. Hours passed. The nurse returned, her expression tight. They said they couldn't come. "Your sister's horse has colic and needs monitoring." They single quotes preoccupied. That word hit harder than the 4-needle. Preoccupied with an animal, while their daughter lay pale and weak in a hospital bed. I stared at the ceiling, heart monitor beeping steadily, and felt something shift. This wasn't about misunderstanding or being overlooked. This was a choice, a conscious one. They had picked her, horse over my health, and what terrified me most wasn't the decision itself. It was how unsurprised I felt. That's when I knew something inside me had finally broken. Discharge papers in hand and hospital bracelet still wrapped around my wrist. I took a cab back to the apartment I could barely afford and sat on the edge of my bed for hours. No calls, no texts, not even a check-in to see if I'd made it home. That silence was louder than any argument. I deleted our family group chat without flinching. Blocked their numbers. I didn't make an announcement, just quietly stepped away. At first, it felt like walking off a cliff, but something strange followed, a sense of weightlessness. My friend Lena, who'd covered my shift and brought me soup that first night back, became my anchor. She didn't ask for details. She just showed up, the way family should. Over the next few months, I learned how to budget. I taught myself to cook. I set up autopay for bills my parents used to control. It was clumsy and terrifying and empowering all at once. I didn't have backup anymore, but I had freedom. I'd wake up early and run through the park, letting the morning air fill my lungs, like proof that I was still here, still standing, without their applause, without their approval. And for the first time, I wasn't chasing anything. I was choosing me. Every solo grocery run, every rent payment made on time, every quiet night reading, instead of crying, they were small victories, markers of a new life. One I was building brick by brick. Without them, it had been almost 9 months of silence when they showed up. I was at work, managing front-end marketing for a small creative agency, when the receptionist buzzed me. "There's a couple here asking for you. They say they're your parents." My stomach dropped. I stepped into the lobby, and there they were, standing side by side, faces drawn but familiar. Danielle's horse passed. My dad said, skipping any greeting. "She's devastated. We thought maybe you'd want to come home. Be with family." I blinked, stunned. Not a word about me. Not how have you been or we're sorry. Just an invitation back into the same dynamic, this time as emotional support for the golden child. I looked at my mother. Her eyes welled up, but the tears felt misdirected, like grief for convenience lost. Not a daughter left behind. "I'm not coming," I said quietly. "I built a life without you. You never came when I needed you. Not once. And now that you need me, now you show up." My voice didn't shake. Their silence did. "Tell Danielle, I hope she heals," I added, "but I'm not the one to help her do it." Then I turned around and walked away. These days, my mornings are quiet, just the way I like them. I share an apartment with Lena now, who's become more of a sister than Danielle ever was. We split groceries, laugh over bad reality TV, and talk about life in a way that feels safe. I started therapy too. At first, I thought I'd just unpack the past, but instead, I've started building something new, a version of myself that isn't shaped by rejection. A few weeks ago, I got a message from Danielle. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just a single line. "Mom cried on her birthday because you didn't call." I stared at it for a long time before deleting it. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't. That's how I knew I'd finally healed. I don't need to prove anything anymore. Not my worth. Not my pain. Not even my love. I've stopped waiting for them to show up. Instead, I'm showing up for myself every single day. Sometimes I still wonder what might have been, but I don't live there. I live here now, in a life I chose, with people who chose me back. And if you've ever felt like you had to walk away to be seen, just know, you're not alone. Family isn't who shares your name. It's who shows up when it counts.